¿Cómo vas?
Well,
How are things going?
it is kind of difficult to find the correct strategy. So I chose two.
Okay.
One is metacognitive strategy,
Okay.
and the other one is monitoring.
Monitoring
Now the question here
comprehension
is if
strategies.
they work for.
All right. Are you referring to reading, right? Reading
Yes.
comprehension. So, reading strategies. So mainly metacognitive and monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, so these within the category of metacognitive strategies, are there several strategies that fall in that
Like
category?
different.
Or is it just one? Like, how many possible strategies here are we considering?
That is a good question.
Or, for example, monitoring. Are there several monitoring strategies, or is there?
Maybe not strategies, but like steps to follow.
Okay, so in the literature, what have you found with regard to metacognitive and monitoring?
Okay, let me.
And who are some of the authors that you?
I found this one to start my research, but it is not a research. That's the problem.
That's not primary research.
I don't think so. I have more than 20 maybe, but they are different.
So, for example, you have here the Think Aloud strategy. Develop the Think Aloud strategy first as a method of measuring the cognitive reading process, then as an application in the metacognitive realm. So, like the Think Aloud strategy is one strategy. Okay. All right, that's one.
Monitoring is it's a strategy, but it involves different strategies also, because monitoring is making students aware about what they are reading and what they understood during the reading.
So here they talk a lot about Think Aloud. So that might be one strategy that would cover the metacognitive. Now, does it talk about monitoring here?
Yes.
And you could find several, I'm sure you could find different research studies on Think Alouds. Right?
Yes.
And get different perspectives and ideas. Okay, let's see. I missed it. Well, this is research. This is primary research.
Okay, good.
But don't see anything really specific about monitoring. Unless I'm missing it. We talk pretty much about think aloud. Why not just do a think aloud study on think aloud strategy and reading? For reading. And you should.
It is not necessary to adapt to strategies in the research. With one is enough.
Yeah, you just. You're focusing. You're trying to better understand think aloud and the reading strategy. You're going to come up with a lot of theory that relates to this strategy. So it's a think aloud. So maybe you talk about metacognitive and monitoring strategies, but as it relates to think alouds. So your research questions would be about think alouds.
For the next session, tutoring session, I have to bring the complete the review, right?
No, not the complete one, but try to upload is what we still have 2 weeks. So try to upload as whatever you can.
Yes.
And I would look at under modules for week 2. Look at this link, developing an argument, to figure out how you want to structure your ideas.
The one that you uploaded in Canvas?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay.
And we can look at this. Your next tutoring session, I'll look at what you've uploaded to your Google Drive documents. So if we go, let's go to your Google Drive document.
So right now, what is your recommendation? What is the next step for
the next step is to upload to Google Drive. Now let me open it up here.
I already have my
your template. Okay. So the next step is to first add your questions here at the end of your literature review, just before your method section. Your 2 to 4 research questions that come directly from this right here, because I want to find out.
Okay, I will change that. Because
modify this, but whatever you put here, what I'm highlighting here, your research questions come directly from this, what I've highlighted from here, because I want to find out, whatever you put there, your research questions come directly from that that phrase. Okay. Then the next step is to add your thesis statement here. Your thesis statement will be at the end of your introduction. You don't have to worry about your entire introduction now. You can just add your thesis statement. But this will give me an idea, and the main idea of your paper and your research questions, and then start developing here your literature review. See, in this section here, I would add first your main topics. You're going to have anywhere from 2 to 4 main topics for your literature review. So ask yourself, how do I want to order those 2 to 4 main topics? Okay, and I would add those first.
Okay, the first one is like the main topic, and then subtopics? Or
well, no, these are all equal level.
Okay.
So think about your entire thesis. Ask yourself, what are the 2 to 4 main sections? And what do I want to talk about first? And then second, third. And then if, let's say you only have 2 main sections, then you might have subsections, because you're going to have 2 pretty big sections, main sections. So here, you will have either level 2 headings, or you might have level 2 and level 3 headings, depending on how many level 2 headings you have. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right, so the main thing, treat this like an outline, and just say, okay, what are my 2 or 3 or 4 main sections, and 1, 2, and put them as a heading right here. Then go back and start filling out each section.
And each section will have maybe 2 or 3 more. So
depends, right? Depends.
Right?
If you have 3 headings or 4, you probably won't need additional headings. But if you have 2 headings, then you may need additional headings. So start with that. Research questions at the end. The thesis statement at the end of your introduction here. and then the main topics, the main headings, and then start writing.
Okay, for example, in here I can write information about think aloud strategy, right?
Well, think aloud, but you probably want to start first with the theoretical. So maybe talk about metacognitive.
Okay.
Then you maybe talk about monitoring, and then look for other key terms that relate to
like
these ideas. So maybe you have two sections, one for metacognitive and another for monitoring, and you develop those two sections. Now the think aloud, you might mention at the very end, maybe in just one paragraph, right, and link what you just talked about theoretically to this practical activity, because this is a little bit different. It's more practical than theoretical, right? So, or maybe you talk about think alouds throughout, I don't know, and link it from a practical. It's up to you. It has to be, the idea is to try to make it logical, but you, I think the basis, or I think the most of your literature review is going to be about the theoretical, the cognitive and the reading strategies or comprehension that link to metacognitive and monitoring, right? So that's kind of where we're at now, and try to start uploading whatever you can. And next tutoring session, I'll look at this. We'll sit down and see how you're coming up with your text, and I'll try to make recommendations.
Whenever I finish something, I will send you a message, right?
Well,
it doesn't matter.
It's not necessary. I mean, if you're not, if you're making progress and you don't have any doubts, just continue working.
Okay.
You don't have to send me anything until next tutoring session.
Okay.
But if you have a particular question or a doubt, feel free to email me in Canvas. But I won't look at it until next week unless you let me know, and you don't have to let me know every time that you do something unless...
Or if I have a question...
Unless you have a question, of course. If you have a question, send me an email. But if you're just making progress, you don't have to email me just to let me know that you're working on it. We'll look at the progress, together each tutoring session. But I don't want you to be stumped and stop working because you're not sure what to do or whatever. So just send me an email if you have a question.
Okay. I have another question.
Yeah.
For the lead review, I have just primary research articles. I will need to have also books.
Yeah, the idea is to try to have a mixture of primary research articles, books, and websites. And remember that we need to have at least 10 and have more or less equal amounts of each of those three types. So, for example, you may have 3 articles, 4 books, and 3 websites. Or maybe it's 4 articles, 3 books, and 3 websites. More or less. Okay. That's the idea. What you don't want is like all one type. You try to have a mixture of those 3.
What are the best articles from internet? The ones that it says that edu, something like that?
Well, okay, so the best types of websites are those that end in edu, gov, org, basically anything that's not com, which would mean commercial or business. So most of the websites that end in org, anything else, edu, gov, you'll be, they'll be okay. You still need to look at it and assess it, but start there. Start looking for those websites that end in those domains, and then try to find as much information about the author that you can online. Like, who is saying this? Is this person a noted writer, a researcher, or do we know any more information about this person? So that's another way you can try to help assess.
If I don't find the first author, is not recommendable to write it, right?
If you can't find the author?
Yes.
Well, it's debatable. I mean, if it comes from a reputable website, if it comes from, for example, the U.S. Department of Education website, I mean, well, that's has some, validity. Some would argue maybe not, but I mean, still, I think you'll be okay in general with that type of information that's coming from a governmental institution that is dedicated to the field of education. Certainly, I think you'll be okay if you chose those types of sites, and you can't find the author. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. Okay. Any other doubts, questions?
Every time that you write a site, it is recommendable to write down the
citation
reference. I mean.
Well, every time you. Okay.
If you cite a phrase, the next step is to find out the reference, right? Because after that it's going to be complicated to read.
Yeah, I would recommend as you write and you cite in the text at that moment, include the references.
Because last semester I did it differently, and it was
it's hard.
Yes, huge problem to find the the
and you'll make mistakes and everything. So what my recommendation is if you're doing an annotated bibliography, or if you have a list of all your references as you find them, like right now when you're reading these articles and you maybe have a list, what I would do is in Google Drive, create another document and just copy and paste them, have them there. And then when you write, say, okay, here's one. I have it over here. Open up another document, copy and paste it over, and then at that moment, include it in your references. So you have a citation and reference, right? Then you can continue working. You come up to your next citation. Go find it wherever it is. Add it to the reference. Add the citation. Sigues. So siempre. It's always citation, reference. Now, if you're citing a reference that's already down in your reference list, then obviously you're okay. You just add another citation. You look down. Okay, I already have it. I'm fine, and you keep going.
Because sometimes I feel like excited when I'm writing down the.
Well, it's kind of a. It's a plus and minus, and it really, if you have it close by, that's the thing. If you have all your citations like close to you, whether it's printed out next to you or another document, it's not going to break your flow too much by just pausing, getting it quick, because it shouldn't take you too long. And what you can do is, don't worry too much about APA at that moment. Just get the information as much as possible in there, and then when you finish, or the next day when you start, say, okay, today I'm going to focus on APA, clean up my references, then see this, right? And then do it that way. And the same way is if you later take out a citation, right then and there, go down and say, look for other citations and determine, do I need to remove something from because that's another problem too, is having a reference but no citations.
So maybe one day seems good, but the next day you read it and it is not pretty good.
Yeah, so just try your best to do it, because it really gets, at the end, it gets really tough to go back and check.
Do you think this topic has importance?
I think it's significant. Understanding more of the Think Aloud, if you pull up the specific strategy. So maybe it's the Think Aloud, and you mention these strategies that relate, to this activity. And I mean, they call it a strategy, Think Aloud, a strategy. But there might be other strategies or theoretical concepts that link this. And some of it may be social, some may be cognitive, right? Maybe. So just try to the thing is try to figure out and include in your literature review those main concepts that link to the idea of understanding metacognitive. And I think this is significant because you're learning more, investigating more about this metacognitive way of thinking, as well as monitoring, which is kind of, I mean, I don't know if it's related, but it might be, depending. I mean, if I monitor myself, I might also be I might be metacognitive, right? If I'm thinking how do I learn best, and I'm monitoring how I learn, it might be connected there. It might be kind of the same depending on how you organize it. But so yeah.
About this survey.
Yeah.
How can I complete it? Because I didn't understand how to do it.
This is when you have your research. When you find research and authors, okay, so you have primary research, could be a book. You include the name of the article or the name of the author here. And this sheet, as you go over, it has key concepts. So you have 3 stages. The first stage is to assemble the collected data. The second is to synthesize, and the third is to analyze or critique. Right. So the first step is just to assemble the collected information. So you're going to have key concepts. So you have the author, and maybe in this author they talk about monitoring. So you just put key terms here: monitor or metacognitive. Citation. Here you include the citations and the main ideas. Data quality, this is just your own assessment if it's good information or not.
Yes. Order, text, and what? Just those things?
I would say key concept, citation, and main ideas for sure.
Okay. But I mean in this space. Order, text, and what does refer with then?
Periodical. That's just the
year?
No, like if it comes from Time Magazine or ELT Journal.
Okay.
And this is important here, the citation. So that's where you can get it. That's what I was saying. If you have this organized, when you're writing, you just jump over here, copy and paste it over, and you see.
So this is before to write the review. Right?
Yeah, this helps you kind of organize. This is a very helpful task. And then, so imagine you have all your information here. Then you want to synthesize. So now you're going to say, okay, this author, and this author talk about these key concepts. So you say this one key concept and these authors. And now you're starting to compare and contrast what everybody's saying. Because that's exactly what you're going to do for your literature review. You're going to take all these authors, compare and contrast basically. Do these guys agree? Maybe these guys don't. And then that's how you form the argument.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you analyze. That last section would be just you're critiquing it. So now you're going to make a determination about what is quote unquote better. Not saying those words better, but at the end of the day, the way you organize your information, you are proposing that these guys are, this information is a stronger argument than the other point of view. And so think of your literature review as forming an argument, and that's what I talk about a lot in Canvas in that link, developing an argument. So that's where this worksheet kind of goes also with that developing an argument.
Do we have to record the session? Because I forgot it.
I did record it. I am recording.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I'm recording. So everything we talked about today, you can go back and listen to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where can I find those recordings?
You can find the recordings if you go to Canvas main page.
Because.
In fact, if you go to discussions, it should be here at the top where it says pinned discussions, but it's called Thesis Seminar Tutoring Sessions. Now from here, all of the videos that I upload fall into this playlist. So you may have to type in playlist and look for your name.
Okay.
And you can scroll down and find your names.
Okay.
And like our, like for week 1, and let's see.
It has
or week 2 rather. You should be here for week 2 somewhere. There you are. So this is our session from last week. So you can go back and listen to that if you want, and then this session will be uploaded within this evening. You know, it takes me typically, well, it may take me a few hours today because I have 6 of you today. So, but between today and tomorrow morning, it should be uploaded.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
All right, Diego. Well, hang in there, and you know.
Research questions.
Thesis statement. And then the main sections, and then start writing. And if you can do it's a good idea to do the handout, the spreadsheet first.
Yes.
And this will kind of give you a matrix of how you're going to organize, and then you can really see patterns about how you want to organize your work. So it's good that you're looking at that. I think that'll help you.
Thank you so much.
All right. And if you do have any doubts, just send me an email in Canvas.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Have a good weekend.
Yeah. You too.
We'll see you.